In 2006, there was this movie called Seraphim Falls. If you haven't seen it, go watch it because it's a pretty good movie and has lots of these themes that we usually like. Now, the movie is Pierce Brosnan and Liam Neeson, and then it's this knife. One guy in Blade's forum, I think it was, said that the knife was another character in the movie. It's used a lot, it's used in critical scenes, and it just looks great. I know I'm not the only guy that fell in love with the Muela Magnum 26 when I saw the movie. Because I've read in the forums that other folks think just like I do. So it's been 10 years of chasing after this knife. I mean, if you see the movie, you understand, I guess, what I mean. It just looks so awesome. It looks big, but, fine at the same time. It's a beautiful, beautiful knife, the Muela Magnum 26. And check out that blade. I mean, I'm going to be leaving it there. So you have your crown stag handle here. You have your 10-inch and a little bit else Bowie blade. This is a 440 stainless steel. I think it's, let me change here this for a second there. What is it? Moly vanadium steel, made in Spain by Muela. Muela is well, it's a company that's been around for, I think, over 50 years now, and they just make very good knives. It's a narrow tang, but it goes pretty well deep in here, and it's filled with epoxy. There's really no other way of doing this sort of handle, but check out that stag. Just, it's just beautiful. You have your brass guard here. Doesn't feel as heavy. This is probably 4 millimeters wide. It's a very big blade, but it balances very well in the hand. It doesn't feel heavy at all. I mean, for the size, of course, we're talking about a decently, very sharp, I mean, razor sharp as well. And this is it, the Muela Magnum 26. There's another model, I think it's the 23. And when I first saw that one, I thought, it doesn't look as impressive, And it was just because it wasn't the 26, it was the Muela Magnum 2023, the slightly shorter version of this knife. And it just does not do the same thing. It has to be this one. It has to be this shape, this big. That recurved edge. Man, it has to be a functional knife as well. I mean, it's a knife that's sure big. You can sure chop with this thing, no doubt. Stab, absolutely. Grab it like that. I think that Pierce Brosnan in the movie uses it like that. I definitely know that it's a way of handling bigger knives. If you need to scrap with it, or pull forward, or just use a little tip for something more of a detailed cut. Just trying to show, I have a ton of knives. If there's something in my house that there's a lot of, it's gonna be knives, guns, flashlights. Those are things that just cross a path here in my family, in my house all the time. And usually my wife says, oh yeah, it's just another knife, it's just another gun, it's just another flashlight. Basically for her, it's all the same. There's really just few occasions in which she's surprised. And when she saw this knife, she was like, wow, that's a pretty big ass knife, but also pretty good looking. It's a beautiful knife. And it is. I mean, anyone can appreciate that it is, in fact, a beautiful knife. Trying to get it to show as good as possible. The quality of construction does a lot. I mean, the balance of the shape is definitely there. That's one of the things that appeals to any knife enthusiast right away, because it just balances very well. The proportions of it, it's just that slight. It's not excessive. It's not corny in the way of trying to be a big Bowie. It just happens to be a big knife. but it does so with style. You know, even delicate, that little curve there, and just perfect. Really doesn't need a lot, because given the size of it, you already have, I mean, why make this a 1/4 inch blade? That would have been, for example, a huge mistake. That would have been something like very tactical thing to do, because they want to have those specs reading 1/4 inch thick blade. And that's just stupid. With a knife this big, makes no sense to have a 1/4 inch blade thickness. I mean, why? It's already massive. It just adds senseless weight to it. But yeah, Spain is known for doing good knives. I mean, thousands of years of being famous for the steel quality. Well, this isn't Spanish steel, but the traditional high carbon Spanish steel has been, you know, appreciated and you know, been in high regard over the years. You know, you have the steel here, you have the very traditional brass guard, big as well, because, you know, since we're talking about a big knife, you need, and the handle, of course, is given that it's a natural material, it's always different, right? The crown here is very unique in every single one of them, and you know, they just pick these from nature. They carefully select which ones would make for a good handle, and it works surprisingly well for that. It's very comfortable. It has some urethane kind of paint, which is a good call, because it's going to be preserving, and you know, especially here where they get into the more porous, the softer inside of the stag handle. You know, this could be, you know, humidity penetrating that, so it's a good idea to seal this from humidity, perspiration of the hand and such. It even has, exactly like in the movie, it has this cap that shows a boar and a dog hunting it. Very traditional hunting scene, I suppose. But it's just a beautiful big knife. Is it a Bowie knife? Well, 99% of people would say. Now, the thing is, if you're a knife guy, you probably know that there's a lot of debate regarding what is exactly a Bowie knife. You know, there's books written about it, and there's resin Bowie, there's different types of Bowie, and it could basically mean a number of things. The only thing most experts agree with is that a Bowie is a big knife, and usually they also agree on it having some sort of a clip point, at least in the more traditional Bowie knives. Yeah, a modern Bowie for sure this is, and with a stag handle, man, I just love it. I think it's fantastic. I own a number of knives, some of them, you know, of great quality. This is something that I never like to part with. It even has that detail of, you know, yet another layer there of steel, you know, an extra bit so as to make it tougher, stronger. This is a knife that you could definitely use honestly for those heavy chores that a big knife, you know, for chopping, batoning, all that sort of stuff. This is a knife that would do without a problem. I was watching a little documentary about Muela, the way they do things, knives and such. You know, very high tech. They do some luxury knives for the Arab countries. They're very delicate work that they do, and they sell those knives in those specific regions. Guess they appreciate the craftsmanship. But yeah, a lot of traditional, you know, craftsmanship goes into making the Muela. In case you're wondering, I don't think it's available anymore in Amazon. It used to be available in Amazon. I'll leave the link below, but I'm telling you right now, it's not anymore. It's no longer available. But it's great to read the comments of the people that actually bought the Muela 26. They just go nuts over it. They love it, and just like I'm doing now, they cannot express enough how much it lives up to their expectations. It does. It just does. Very well balanced, big, feels solid, yet, you know, light enough. And I'd like to, maybe get a second one. I got it on an auction, got very, very lucky with it. I think they're going for 400, 500 bucks these days, and I can only say it's going to be going up in terms of price. But I got lucky with an auction from a guy in France that had it there. Not sure he knew exactly what it was, and it was about the end of the year, and I don't know, maybe people were distracted, or being French, they didn't exactly know what it was. I saw the picture, knew right away what this was, made a lowball offer and landed it, fortunately enough. If not, I would have maybe bought it for retail eventually. But yeah, I'll look in Amazon, see if there's something similar. I think they have the Lobo knife, which is another one from Muela. They have lots of nice looking classic stag handle knives that are in many ways similar, maybe even more of a, maybe smaller, more functional blades, or at least more practical ones than this one, this big ass huge Bowie knife. So I'll check those out. Probably gonna be buying more Muela. They have fantastic knives. I like to use these knives more, because one of the things that happens when you have so many knives, you always end up using something else. I'm trying to put this into perspective just so that you can see how big this thing is. Cold steel, 4-inch blade. Bossy Team Gemini Light Brigade. It dwarfs the Light Brigade. It dwarfs the Team Gemini by Bossy. Oh, one of the comments that I got in one of the previous videos regarding the blood grove or canal or whatever it is that you call. Yes, in general, these, for example, this, as you would typically find in a bayonet, it's used to lighten the steel, to lighten the blade, take away a little bit of steel, yet remain with a solid enough, stiff enough, but flexible blade, especially for bayonets. And it's also true that when they forged swords, especially those Viking swords, larger swords, they had a very big canal that would lighten the blade. It would also mean that you were, especially when forging, you would use less steel, right, with this method. Now, it's also true that there's a reason why it's called a blood grove or blood canal or whatever it is that you're calling it, because it is true that it has the function of avoiding that possibility. It's not always the case, but if you stab with a knife, there's always the case, simply because of physics. There's really nothing magic here. It's simply physics that if you stick this knife into something that's soft and wet like flesh, when you try to pull it out, if there's blood all around it, you're going to be creating that vacuum situation, and when you pull it's going to be pulling back. I actually had that happen to me once, and I remember that it's surprising to try to pull something out and it just it will not go, because it's happening that what you have to do is twist it a little bit, and once air sips in, it just releases without any problem whatsoever. But with this with this grove that you have here, with this blood grove, it's gonna be helping that it allows air to leak and sip in much easier. One of the other things that it has going for it is the finish. This is a nice satin finish, and these days we see a lot of this coating, black paint. I mean, it's all black paint. We can call it any way we want. The simple truth, folks, is that whatever paints with proprietary name that you want to use, whatever that is, whatever fancy name you're using, and always trying to make it appeal in terms of the tactical look, the truth is that for good knives, a polished finish is always better. It's more expensive as well. The best finish for a knife is actually to have a mirror polish finish. I personally don't like mirror polish finish because it just looks like a big piece of glass, right? The satin finish I like a little bit more, but completely honest, the mirror polish finish is the best for very important reasons, two of them mainly. First of all, it's a finish that slides much better through whatever it is that you're cutting. If it looks like a freaking mirror, it's going to be having practically no friction. And you have these, you know, Teflon finishes. It's never the same thing. I mean, I've used knives for I don't know how long. I don't even want to think about that. But there's a reason why the premium, expensive, very high-end knives will usually have a mirror polish finish. It's much more difficult to do as well. You require a lot more of labor to do that, and it's always much more expensive than just painting the side of the blade. It's also a finish that is much easier to keep clean and to avoid rust, because there's no little, you know, maybe even microscopic depressions where humidity, dirt, grit, whatever can stick to the knife. So with that mirror polish finish, it's much less likely that you'll have problems with rust or pitting or any, you know, any kind of natural process occurring in the blade. If it has that mirror polish finish, it's just much easier to keep clean. So basically that, it's just much easier to keep clean. Just wipe it clean and it just slides through the material you're cutting. Just a big, beautiful knife here, the Muela Magnum. It comes with a sheath, leather sheath as well, which is also very well made. You know, a good knife, bossy, you guys, a good knife should come with a good sheath like this one. This is leather, sure, thick stitching. That's all you need. And the process by which they do it is pretty straightforward, simple, but effective. I mean, it's a leather sheath that's going to be lasting your entire lifetime. And the Muela does have, as far as I know, it has a lifetime warranty as well. If you have any problem with it, send it back to Muela. You have to be careful because it's a pretty big knife, very sharp too, so careful not to cut the straps or cut even the sheath, which is completely capable of. But that's it, guys. That's my Muela Magnum 26 centimeters worth of blade, about 10 inches or so. Fantastic big knife that's just a pleasure to collect. That's gonna be all for now. Thumbs up, subscribe, and see you on our next video.